everybody, and welcome to the As You Are podcast. It is the team of Ensō Coaching and Consulting here, and this is our final episode
Season
of
one finale.
So we thought we
finale.
just kind of season one finale.
Yeah.
So we thought we would just kind of hang out and talk a little bit about what we've learned from the guests that we've had this season. Talk a little bit about us and some of the learnings that we've had, and just have a good old time with each other.
I like that word learnings. It doesn't feel like it should be a noun, but it should. But if it isn't, it definitely should be.
Yeah.
Because it's like different than goals and objectives, learnings.
Yeah, right?
It has that sort of like je ne sais quoi. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We are so
We're starting off
We are
today.
starting on a
Good.
With our-
Bonjour.
Yes.
Bonjour.
Fancy sparkling water.
Yes.
Yes, fancy
French words.
Much
Well,
Yes.
so we've had 12 episodes in
Yeah.
season one. This was kind of we wanted to test it to see how it went, and I feel like we've had a lot of like really fun conversations with a nice variety of humans that are all kind of doing things at a really high level, and kind of aligned with some of the things that we talk about as coaches and as team members. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
I'm blown away by the not only people's ability to ideate things and brainstorm and create things, but also then how people can put that in action in a service-oriented way. Because I feel like that's one of the things, like everybody we've talked to this season has had a why, a reason for a need. They've identified a need.
Yeah.
That exists out there in the world, whether that's in the work world and or the life world and or as though those things are inextricable. But
Right.
but
Doesn't
the
exist.
the folks we've talked to have had a need. They've identified a need, and they have gone out and created something in service to others that's smart and intelligent, and truly it's just been really inspiring, I think. And the learnings certainly that I have walked away with have been really vast. So
Yeah.
I think that my favorite part has been just talking with everyone how no one's path has been linear
Oh
and
my
it's
gosh.
been, messy, and maybe there were things that they thought that, their career was over. They didn't want to do, they were stuck. And just the beauty and the creativity that's come out of, sometimes when you're at a point where you're like, oh, this is awful. Like what is the way up, or how do I get through this? And just how much genius has come out of that.
God, it seems like it's almost a theme with so many of the people that we talked to, where they were like, I was doing this thing, I hit a wall, I had to do something different.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes, and maybe this is like, I don't know if this is real or not, but maybe that's what causes, people to go and do something really amazing, is like having something that forces them to look at something different or experience something different or do something different.
Yeah.
I just, I think there's a theme there, right?
And I think that theme seems to be a theme. It's like tongue twister day. That theme seems to be a theme that is also true of why we're all here and coming together to do this work, because I think that it can get to be, it can seem like, wow, it's so obvious that that's what happens. You hit a wall and then some people just fill in the blank.
Yeah.
But there can be ways that you can forge a path I hate that word strategic all the time, but there are ways that we can work together to support each other to intentionally subvert those roadblocks and come out from those roadblocks. And it's not always magic, I guess is what I'm saying,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
There are
and that's
ways.
all you see is the end result, and you're like, man, this person has, look at their amazing business and they had it all. And it's like, well, before they had the amazing business, they went, bankrupt, and they had to do all of this stuff and pivot, and all of these things happen. So sometimes when you're seeing an amazing result, it's very easy to look at it and be
oh
like,
my gosh,
why can't I do that? You can do that, but are you willing to have kind of a messy path to get there? I
Right.
think is the
Right. I mean, I think not to talk about sports, but I think about sports and you can figure skating, whatever.
About sports.
Sporty
Why
sports.
not?
Figure skating.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
when we're watching like a figure skater, we're coming up on the Olympics.
Yeah,
and
we
we're
are.
going to see like an end result where somebody is like doing this beautiful routine
Yeah.
flawlessly. It's never like, that's never just what happens. Like it's always an intense amount of work and blood, sweat, and tears
Yeah.
and all of those things that gets them there. And I think to your point, Adam, like part of the reason why we're here is because we see ourselves as catalysts in some way to when people hit that wall. And it's and I, like for me personally, me hitting a wall required me to go get somebody else to look at me and to say, how do we kind of help you unravel the stuff in here and the stuff in here and figure out what comes next or what the next path forward is?
Yeah.
And the realization in that is that there are so many people who just keep doing what they kept doing, expecting something different, definition of insanity.
Yes.
And or safety, right? Like sometimes it's just safe to keep doing what you continue to do. But if you want something real and something beautiful and something, magnificent on the other end, it might require that you have somebody help you move past whatever that roadblock is in your life.
Yeah, and I think that's another theme that we would see through the season is that no one said I did it by myself.
No.
100%.
Right?
That's right.
And I think that's always an important message. And like I'm someone who's like, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. One, that's never happened. Two, why would we celebrate that?
Right,
when
right.
it's like we should work together and there's so many learnings we get from working together. And I think we talk a lot about coaching as a way to have a mirror up to someone where it's like working together. It's not like we're an outsider who says, I think you should do this, 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 this. That instead it's like these things are in you and we're going to examine and explore them and be able by working together to pull them out because you are capable of doing this.
Right.
And you're not alone in
Right.
doing it.
Right. Well, we talk about it all the time that a coaching relationship helps you get to what your end result is 10 times faster than what you
always
could do
love
on
that.
your own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose.
Otherwise, our minds are echo chambers by
Yeah.
default.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Because we know what we
have
know.
to have other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I think too with that we know what we know. A lot of like the dialogue around coaching too includes options, right, and resources. So if you're by yourself, it can feel like, well, I only know this small collection of options, and you're making the best decision that you can with those. But again, by breaking out of that echo chamber a little bit, that those options start to blossom, and suddenly it can feel like, well, anything's possible.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to run away from sports and talk about gardens. Let's plant
Now we're
those
blossoming.
seeds.
I love
We're
that.
blossoming.
Yes.
Get some water, some soil.
Yeah,
You make sure that
exactly.
soil is good soil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what could be.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
It's
love
what
that.
could
So good.
be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not what should be, maybe what would be, but what could be.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to at the end of the day.
And I'm just going to jump on that even a little bit further because I love the shift of thinking where it's not like I have to, but I get to. That's one of my favorite ones, right? So it's not should, but like, yay, I want to.
I want to do this.
Yeah.
And it's okay to do it for me.
Yeah.
Also, I will only be in bed. It's that whole cliche oxygen mask on the plane analogy. I'm only going to be as good for other people as I can be for myself. So it's okay. I think about Alice, who was talking about the acronym, the Magic Mom. And a lot of that, she had to say for herself, it sounded like from her conversation, there is something for me that if I cannot be there for my daughters, I cannot be there in my relationship, I cannot be there in the way that I want to in service to others, if I cannot focus on what is going to be best for me in a moment as well as thinking about others all the time.
Yeah. It can be so easy to create a world that you think you need to fulfill based on so many other influences, and getting to that core, which Alice talked about, And I feel like Wendy talked about that. There's a
Mm-hmm.
couple of people that we talked to that really had to take a moment to say, I'm doing this because I feel like it's the thing that I should do.
Yeah.
It's the thing that I was told is the right path forward. And until you stop and just break all of that down, you don't really know
You're
what
just
is
going through,
Yeah, you're going through the motions and, and living a life that is not yours, which is sad.
Well, I think too, I mean, with Wendy, I like how cool just to be like, this doesn't exist. I'm going to build it. I don't like the way that this, there's so many people that they, again, just doing the same thing. They don't like the way something's going. They don't like, where they are, whether it's career-wise, family-wise, whatever it is. But making the change and saying, okay, this doesn't exist, so I'm going to make it exist.
Yeah, there's a gap.
Yeah.
Let's fill it.
Let's fill it. Let's not just complain about the gap because the gap is going to stay there if we, don't proactively do something.
And something I'd add to that too is that I don't think we need to wait until we're at our lowest point in order to fill that gap.
Yeah.
That it's like you can make the change now. You can grow now. And I think that that's a misconception that I've encountered in places where it's like, I've got to hit my lowest before I can move back up. Where it's like, no. It doesn't have to be your lowest.
Right
Move now.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and it's a constant. I think that's it's a constant look at yourself and the progression of growth that has to occur in order for some of these things to happen, right? Because it can be really easy to look at yourself and to say, okay, I want to make a change now. And then, you hire a coach or you hire a consultant or you hire, team to make some of those things happen. And then it's like, poof, you expect it to happen overnight. But the truth is that it's work. I mean,
Work, and
we've
it's a
lived
process.
I think what's up with me and the analogies? I'm thinking
know.
about my little pit bull puppy that we adopted. And we have to, she was a year old when we got her and she has all of these bad behaviors and we have to break down the last year of her life, and retrain her so that the things that she's afraid of or the things that she has fears around kind of dissipate. And that takes time. It takes about as much time as it does to rebuild it.
A 30-something-year-old human of, many years of all the things. So.
Right. Well, and I think it's the same for us. Like we, when we make the decision to make a change or to do something differently in our world, it takes time for us to continue to practice doing things that way. And it's like a muscle and it doesn't happen overnight and it's work. And sometimes it feels like this constant up and down movement of growth when it's never just beautifully linear.
Yeah.
Right to the top. And
When
I feel like we've seen that
feels,
too.
right? Feels in that moment, like these emotions. And that was what I thought was cool about Kyle's work, which I've always thought was cool about Kyle's work, is that you can, really, he's okay. The economics of emotion, the idea that you can look at, that there have been studies on emotion and that there are ways to say, for a lot of people, this emotion can map in this way and this emotion can map in this way. And what might this emotion register as even in a statistical way? I mean, that's sort of the whole economics part for him, I think, when you're looking at a company and saying, why is my company culture not working? Why do my employees seem to be unhappy or unfulfilled or unsatisfied and all of these kinds of things? And I think it very much goes back to, sometimes I have to look back a little further than I might think I need to look back and think about what has led me to this point, and then how can I use that to healthily inform moving forward?
Yeah. Yeah. Evidence-based
Reflection.
Right? Yeah.
I love it. Evidence-based reflection. There it is.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to just see how all of these people that we've talked to have just kind of mirrored the same type of trajectory. I think about Haley, and one of the things that she talked about was how she has to stop and take inventory of like like when she starts to feel her emotions kind of coming up, just going back to what we were talking about with the emotions, when her emotions are coming up, like she has to stop and work through that and look in the mirror before she can go and serve these, these people who are underserved and need additional support, et cetera, et cetera. And that, that takes a lot of awareness.
Yeah.
A lot.
It does. And I think having an openness to that as well, that it's like, I'm open to listening to my body. I'm open to learning and to feeling those things as opposed to denying it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's just interesting because I just, back to what you were saying, Libby, like, thinking about all of these people and their businesses or their leadership. And it's just like, it's this like,
there's no one way.
Yeah, there's
no one way.
Yeah, which is kind of beautiful in and of itself, right? Like we get to choose like our painting and we choose our colors and we make our canvas, right? And it looks very different, but it's ours. And that's like,
sometimes
really
it's a
special.
Sculpture.
Sometimes it's a sculpture.
That's right.
Yeah. Sometimes we're ghosting it.
Maybe, right? Like, there are the hand motions. We're talking about the movie Ghost right now. We're doing pottery together. Thank you. And maybe that's the coaching relationship,
There you go.
That's right.
There you go.
I'm
just
gonna
running
hold
with
you
the
from
metaphor.
behind. To make sure this is
that you're creating it.
Ditto.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Jinx and ditto.
Oh my God. I love
so
it.
many jokes.
I would love to be the Patrick Swayze in this. I think this just
I'd
feels
like to be on the other side of that.
very right. I will gladly take
Rest
that.
in peace.
Yes,
I know. We're going to move that penny underneath the door. Some deep cut ghost references.
That's right.
But I think, right, this idea that there's no one way and that like we can be really creative in what the ways are, right?
Yeah.
And we can learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think too, coaching, we're meeting people on their path. Who knows where they are in their path? So that's such an interesting part of it is you might be meeting someone who's at the highest high that's seeking to, get to the next level. You could meet someone at the lowest low. They are, they've completely broken down and they're trying to rebuild. So I think that that's just part of the beauty of coaching and meeting these clients kind of where they are and, being their Patrick Swayze to get to the next level. And helping them mold. Right. And helping them, move to the next point of their life. And I think that that's just a very interesting and fulfilling part is being able to just meet them exactly where they are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, remembering too that every person is whole.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone is complete. And that's a truth that I think is really important in our headspace when going into these coaching relationships.
Yeah.
We are not there to be like, let me fill your hole. I just said it, I guess.
Kathleen.
Anyway.
Oh, there we go.
Try a new analogy.
Go back to the garden.
Go back to the garden.
Yeah, go back to the garden.
Okay. We're there to help plant the seeds.
Yeah. It's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
Amazing.
Anyways,
fine.
Someone is whole and complete.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Yes. We are not coming and saying, we will make you complete.
Right.
But that it is, like, that's the beautiful thing, as Livia is saying, like, we meet you where you are.
Yeah.
And I think it's we all want to see people, like, I don't want to say even the best version, but just like,
What they want.
they want for themselves. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
That's what we want.
I want you to want me.
I think it's been amazing that, something we talk about a lot in voice work, especially when it's interpersonal communication, is that we like to think about like everything that's produced right here is the voice, but it really is a two-way street. It's the other person. It's active listening. It's all these things we all know about. But that active listening component, I feel like we really are intentional about listening to the folks, not only on this podcast, but all the people we get to interact with as colleagues and as peers, and even people we don't know who we get to learn from, and apply this sort of conversation to the offerings that we are bringing to the table programmatically. I know we're probably going to talk here in a second about a lot of the things that we have been ruminating on and developing literally in response to the conversations that we've been having in this room.
Right.
We're not trying to say we have this one proprietary thing that's exactly the way we do it. Not that there has to be anything wrong with that. However, I think that one of the things I want to pat us on the back.
Yeah.
I do think we all value listening. Maybe that's because we're musicians. But I think that we value listening and taking that into account as we continue to morph what we try to give back out to clients.
Yeah.
And I think the other word I'd bring in with listening is presence, right? Like we are present in our conversations. We are present with one another. And that's a huge part of listening, right? That you're active in it.
Absolutely.
Those are two of our values. We just talked about creativity and presence. So there you go. Yeah.
Nice.
It's really important. It's really important to be an active listener, and because we don't know what anybody else is dealing with, going through, what their background is, where they've come from, what challenges they face, how they perceive themselves.
Absolutely.
And this is an opportunity for us to gain evidence so that we can give the right kind of prescription, when it comes to a coaching relationship. Not to say that,
Another word that I love, I'm just like busting out all these words. It's a mindset, is being curious.
Absolutely.
I love it. I don't know what you're going to say. I don't know what you're going through.
Yeah.
Like and it is this amazing reveal. And that I think is part of the learning and the listening and the presence is the you could say anything.
Right. My when I was doing some of the training and certification stuff, one of the things that they talked a lot about was coming to things with a child's mind, right? Which is such a good frame of mind or a frame of reference to be like, I need to approach this relationship as if I'm a child. I know I can't assume anything. I know nothing.
My 4-year-old's mind.
That's right.
She's got
questions.
She needs
she does.
to know.
Yeah, and what a good reminder of how many filters we build on as we age and as we get older. Like it's just layer upon layer upon layer, and it's our job as coaches to kind of peel back the onion and try to get to the core of what is a challenge or what might be a block, so that we can help them move towards whatever their goals are, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have a difficult time engaging in just igniting that coaching relationship or just getting on that first call. And I equate it a lot to what I think happens in auditions in the film world and the theater world, live auditions and things, because I'll often ask a client who is going into an audition as an actor, as a vocalist, what is your goal for this audition? And if the word prove comes up in that sentence, my goal is to prove that I can do it to the people at the table, the casting directors. My goal is my goal is to book this role. Then we have a little bit of a reflection, a little bit of a conversation about maybe it's enough not to try to prove anything and simply to perform.
Yeah.
Show up, to enjoy, to find the joy, because it's a hard career, as we all know sitting here. It can be a tough career to pursue the arts or performing in any way. And so letting oneself not feel like one has to prove something or already have 10 goals written out to start that coaching relationship. I think that's really important. It's okay to click on that mouse and have no idea what's going to happen at first.
Absolutely.
Maybe even encouraged to click on that mouse and have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And what I love, everything you say is always beautiful. But getting to the why of it, right? It's like if we're running with this idea of being a performer, why are you a performer? And how much and how quickly you can get to, because I love it. I enjoy it. And so in those places when people for coaches, it's so important for us to understand the why of the other person,
right?
Because it's a great way that we can create the tracks and something we can return to when it feels a little like I'm veering off of the purpose here. But remembering what is the motivator.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree, and I feel like that. I really want to kind of dig in on just each of our different coaching styles and what we do and bring to the table, and maybe just talk a little bit about our approach with our clients.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I'm looking at you.
Yeah, go for
So
it.
I'm no.
Brought it up.
Well,
so do it.
You, because you're the first one to answer, I think.
I know.
Is the
I get to go
implication.
first.
Yeah, you ask the question, be ready to answer.
Oh, okay. Well, my name's Libby, and I'm a career coach. And so in working with my clients, I really enjoy kind of getting to the why of, why we're here in the first place and what we're looking to do. I think people think of career coach and they're like, I'm going to get a really sweet resume. And yes, you are. You are going to get a really good looking resume. Of course. And we're going to get you all up to speed on, LinkedIn and networking, and we're going to do all of those things. But for me, some of the best work is with my clients around what their values are and doing that values work. And because so many times people don't know, they know they're unhappy in a job, but they don't know why. They don't know if it's the actual work, if it's the environment. And so a lot of times I meet people in this place where they're feeling stuck and they don't know what they want to do next, but they don't know if it's a career change or if they just don't like doing what they're doing, or maybe it's just a company. And so when we start in on the values work, figuring out what's important to them and if their company or their specific role is lined up with their values. Many times it is not. And that is, at the end of the day, when you're feeling exhausted and your biggest value is your time and you work for a company that does not value time, you're constantly at conflict. And so that is going to make you, that's going to make anyone just really feel burnout. And so some of my most rewarding, I would say, sessions that I've had with my clients lately have been this values work. And when they do find a company that is in alignment with their values, and, we come up with all kinds of strategic questions that they can ask, but the night and day feeling of, what it's like to work for someone that you are in alignment with, rather than constantly working, with a company or for a boss that you are hitting the wall with. That has been really rewarding. And I think it's just something that people don't think about.
No.
Like sitting down and I've had people be like, I've never sat down to do this, but sitting down and saying what is important to you and coming up with, ways to see that in, a company, because I also have people who they say something like creativity is really important to me. Okay, well, maybe if you're, a lawyer or, you're a engineer, like creativity doesn't necessarily come to mind, but finding how you can be creative in those roles and how that creativity can be celebrated. So I think that has been, for me, one of the most rewarding things is really working with people on values. And then, of course, getting them awesome jobs.
Naturally.
And I feel like, I feel like a proud mama when my clients get these interviews and start working at cool companies. But it's so much of it, though, is it's more than resume. It's more than, where do I apply? Again, I do think people tend to think of it as this very tactical, and yes, those are important pieces. Your resume is absolutely important. LinkedIn is important. Networking, all of that stuff is important. But at the core, if you're not clear about what you want, what's going to happen is, you're going to interview for a role. You're not going to know where to look or what type of roles you want. And chances are you're going to keep repeating what is happening to you now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think to Adam's point about the active listening and then getting into curiosity around some of these things, we allow people to self-discover. They're discovering this themselves. We're not telling them what their values are or where they should go look for jobs or what things are important to them. It's this process, this expedited process of coming to the realization of what you actually want versus, being miserable and being unclear about it. To your point around values, the number one cause of burnout is being misaligned with what you value on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
If you are doing things on a day-to-day basis that are pushing against your values, you're going to be exhausted. You're not going to be energized, and getting people into opportunities where they're aligned with their values will cause more energy, will cause more opportunity, will cause more, pep in the step, so to speak.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's going from I have to I get to.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I just want to, I can go on for days about how amazing Libby is.
Get out of here.
I can. It's so easy to.
What?
No, you can't.
Let's each take a turn. No.
Yeah. All right, let's go in a circle. I hope this doesn't, like, hard and soft skills, I think, are terms that are thrown around a lot. And I don't know how much people subscribe to them, but
yet it's language that people understand.
But it's language people understand. That's a good point. I feel like Libby is such an incredible balance of those hard and soft skills, right? But because it's like there are things that for people who value the what is the practical, the tactical, and then for the people who value what's going on with the feelings and the understandings, that you're able to bring all those things to the page. And I think also what's nice about that is then it's broader appeal for folks.
Yeah.
That it's like they can come in with a variety of needs and get those needs really met. And I'm a soft skills gal. So I'm like, plus Libby is just so lovely and she's so funny and she is just really easy to open up with and engage. And I'm sure I've said it before, but Libby, if you see her on the other side of the Zoom, you can't help but smile and feel, I don't even want to say comforted, but just in very capable hands. And that it's a hand I want to hold to go on the journey.
You guys leave us alone for a minute. Hand holding feeling. Oh my gosh.
Well, and also I just want to add on to that. Libby has also received a lot of results, and we don't want to get into specifics because we protect our clients' confidentiality. But she's had multiple clients with some offers from some major companies, which is also just really exciting. Maybe someday we'll be able to talk about them, but it's, it just goes to show that the work that you're doing is not only allowing them to execute on the thing that they hired you for, which is to get a freaking job.
It's also just very hard right now.
I think the other, and I think the other thing too is they're staying with you after they get the job, which is also a testament to the work, the deeper work that you're doing, because it's not, and it can be, you may get clients that just go through the process and you get them the job and then that's the end of the relationship, the end.
Yeah.
And there may be, and the opportunity that I think these clients are seeing with you is it's more than just getting the job, but it's also remaining aligned with those values and continuing to get the things that they want out of their lives.
Yeah.
And you are more than just a career coach. Yeah. You are supporting them in a multitude of different areas.
Yeah, because honestly, just because the company has your values and you're aligned with them doesn't mean that life happens. And companies and roles change and people have to pivot and things happen. And so, making sure that you're always staying, because just because they're your values doesn't mean you're always staying true to them, right?
100%.
And so reminding someone, hey, this is important to you and you're not paying attention to it and you're not, giving that value the time and space that it deserves. And so I think, it's a continuous journey.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and Kathleen, I think you just teed up a little bit in my mind.
I'm a soft skills person.
Yeah. a little bit about a collaboration we're working on that might be coming down that is coming down the pipeline, actually. Yes. Very excited about it. And I would love to hear you introduce that because I think you have such a great way into a field that I work in every day, but you come at it from a very different perspective, which is part of why we're collaborating on this new initiative.
Yeah, so it's going to be this 12-week course that we roll out. And I'm really excited to team up with Adam. And I think maybe where you're going with this in part is it is the hard and the soft skills that get to come together.
Yes.
And so I'm one of the the categories I'm in with coaching, as in mental wellness, and then the other one, relationships and transitions. But with that mental wellness, it's how we relate to various parts of our personality. And so it's ultimately a course that we're doing that's around public speaking. And I like to nuance that, like, public speaking can be, you're a keynote at a conference, or you're leading a meeting, or you're talking to your boss about getting a raise, just like any of these instances in which we're speaking in front of other people. And, the approach with the mental wellness is unpacking what often might be some of those roadblocks or barriers to going in and feeling authentically confident. And I'm really big on that authenticity because, it can be the like, well, I'm going to say I'm confident, or like, sure, this thing looks confident, right? But how can you show up as yourself and feel ready in yourself? And so some of that is, like I said, those roadblocks to getting to that confident place. And so some of that is anxiety. And I think anxiety is a really loaded word, as it should be, because there's a lot of feelings around it and a lot of ways in which it manifests. But also understanding that anxiety and feeling like you're able to shape what that anxiety looks like, so how it manifests, understanding why we have it, and how it can sometimes be helpful. Like, what is your anxiety communicating to you? And in understanding that, then, what does your anxiety need? And being able then to get those needs met, and to also, oh my gosh, like, this is one of those things that comes up all the time with me and clients. I just like humans, just this idea of how often people can feel alone with their feelings. And feels like you're going through it alone. And it can also feel like, I'm the only one who feels this. And it's not coming from an ego place. I think that that's part of the mental wellness, is your mind plays that trick on you. So the number of times I hear people go, am I weird for feeling this way? Or like, it's so unusual, or like, can you even understand what I'm saying? And that I hear this from everybody. I mean, that's a fallacy.
Everybody?
Everybody. But that I hear it from so many people, and to be like, oh, honey, you're not alone. And I think there's something really powerful about a group setting, like what we're doing with this course, so that it's like, I'm here with 14 other strangers. And oh my gosh, I see that I'm not alone in this. And let me hear what they're going through, because I might learn a little bit more about myself through learning about someone else's experiences.
Absolutely.
And I think there's like a really beautiful camaraderie that can come out of that. And so in understanding those emotions and feeling like you've got a better handle on those emotions, to come again to that like authentic confidence and understanding. And that's an ongoing relationship. And then, so, like soft skills.
Well, you know what I have to say, though? This is a really cool moment. This is happening right here live on the This is a really cool moment for me, Kathleen, because we've been collaborating on this curriculum for a while now. I'm very excited about the curriculum. I think it's going to be
Stay tuned.
kind of groundbreaking.
Yeah.
But really. But something that we have not talked about, and you just brought up this feeling that folks have that they are often the only individual who is feeling, experiencing what they're feeling. Last year, I was involved in a project, and part of my contribution to this project was creating this approach for vocal coaches to take when a new client comes into their studio or their clinic and says, hey, I hate my voice. There's actually a term for it. It's vocal confrontation. It's something that is studied. Not enough, but it's something that is studied. But there has not necessarily been something practically put out there as sort of a process by which in the first 10 minutes, a speech language pathologist, a vocalogist, a physician who someone is saying this to them could walk through perhaps as a quick, initial interaction. And so this was my contribution to this project. And so the acronym I came up with was VOICE, because it made sense for all the things I wanted to talk about. But the V is validate. That's the very first part of the VOICE acronym for this, which is you're not the only one who hates. It is amazing to me how many folks come in and say, "Oh, I thought everybody liked their voice," and I'm like, "Oh no, the vast majority of people
Oh no,
don't like their voice."
that's just a little
It is-
show we put on.
That's right. That's right. And so just to launch with this idea that you are actually in the majority, honestly. You are not in the minority. And now we can move through some more discussion together about why that might be. And some people that matters to, and some people it doesn't matter to. And so then we have these conversations. But what I love about what we're putting together is that there is going to be that opportunity to do that on the very first day. This quote validation that you're not the only one. And I think that's really special. And then I do think that we have put together I don't want to call it a curriculum, a journey, I think,
Yes.
right? Where you do get to, you get a week with Kathleen, you get a week with Adam, you get a week with Kathleen. And part of that is so that we can really never lose sight of, let me check in on my anxiety, on my fears around this, on the unknowns around this, while I build some quote hard skills around confidence begets confidence, right? So are you often told that your voice is quiet or that you can't be understood? Or are you often asked to repeat yourself? All of these kinds of things. Sometimes that has nothing to do with the physiology or the instrument, although it can. But oftentimes it's a confidence begets confidence thing. And that's what I love about the cyclic nature of what we're going to be doing. So stay tuned out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe
Sign
by
up.
the
Gonna be
time this
so
is
good.
out there on that, we'll be offering it. I don't know. But in any case, I am very excited because it is an area where people who come in to take speaking voice classes for actors or speaking voice classes or singing voice classes, things like that. Oftentimes, the number one thing they want to make sure we address in the scope of that class is, fear and anxiety. And it's something that in a class like that, you get so little time to touch on it in 10 minutes. This is really taking that to the forefront and the core. And I just am so thrilled that we're doing it together because that is your area. I mean, it truly is. And as someone,
coolest.
that's right.
With anxiety.
And
She asks
someone
the best
who,
questions.
but someone who's also a professional vocalist. I mean, that's what I think is so cool, right? You have lived experience, and so I'm really excited about that.
Really excited about it too.
Well, will you more to come on that because
Yes.
that's
Yes.
really exciting stuff, some really exciting stuff. But can we talk a little bit more about you as a coach and some of the, what does a structure look like when you're meeting with a client for the first time? And
Yes. I think coming back to the why of it, why have you sought out coaching? What has inspired this? And what is it you're wanting to work on? And coming back to the what is it you want to work on, but what motivates you to want to work on that? And so in coaching, there's the overall big goals that we're working towards. But then in the sessions, it's not just like, what are you doing right now that fits into the biggest goal, but also what do you need right now? So I think it comes back to the presence piece, and that there will be some of those days where it's like, okay, I know that there's still the bigger goal, but what I need right now is something else.
Yep.
And so I think it's this openness that there is this thing that someone said to me when I was younger that I hold in me all the time, which is that dreams, and I think we can use that with goals, changing is a sign of maturation. So what you come in with one goal in that first call might not end up being the goal through our work together. Because as you learn more and understand more, that can start to shift. And I talked to Leslie about this because I get very nerdy. That's like, we talk about coaching and the gaps that exist. So it's what is the goal? Which is what you're working towards. The reality is where you are today. And that gap is in between. And that there are ways to fill this gap. And understanding if it's something that has to do with an activity, a skill, or a mindset. And communication is one of my favorite ones around this because when I'm working with relationships, communication is obviously one of the big ones that comes up. And so activity would be, I don't know what to say. And then skill would be, I know what to say. I don't know how to say it. And then mindset is, actually, I don't have the confidence to do any of this. So someone could come in and be like, I want to learn what to say. But that in working together and understanding more of what it is, that those goals can evolve. And so I'm like, what does a session with me look like? It is a lot of, I think, deeper understanding and reflection. And as I said before, how we relate to various parts of our personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I mean, one of the things that you do so well, Kathleen, is you leave a lot of space for people to get to that self-discovery. So to your point, they may come in with some objective, some goal that they have. And what you do in creating that space allow them to take the time to actually think through what they actually need.
Yeah.
Which, again, the point of coaching is that there's a block. There's something that somebody can't get where they want to go because something's holding them back. And a lot of times we might not even know what that is, but we know that there's something that we want. And you are, a master. I don't know anybody. I really don't.
No, it's really true.
I really don't know anybody who creates as much space and asks like really, really great questions to allow somebody to get to that point.
Thanks.
Yes.
And that's, it's natural for her. It does not feel,
no.
It is very natural. It does not feel forced. I would say that, Kathleen, you have such an amazing ability to just make people comfortable. You just bring a comfort and like a very safe environment anywhere you are. I mean, you can be asking me about like what I had for lunch, and I'm like, oh my God, I just feel like that was the best answer. Like, I just feel so supported in my choices.
Well, when we went to Utah for a training. Yeah. And we had this like big dinner. Yeah. And Kathleen was like, let's all talk about what we love about each other. And it was the most
something that normally would make me like
so cheesy, right? Like it was
great.
It was it was such a beautiful, I will remember that dinner.
I know.
I didn't know half of the people at the table, more than half of the people at the table. And it was one of the most like beautiful moments I've experienced. Yeah. And it was so natural and it felt like not so authentic.
Not forced team fun.
Yeah, not forced team fun.
It was amazing. Kathleen,
was beautiful. Kathleen, you guys, this is a lady.
Get in
It
there.
is the
Get
truth.
in there.
It is the truth.
Get in on it.
I'm going to put this in my evidence
Truly
journal
true.
later.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Yes.
Okay, so now like switching gears to Adam. So you guys are going to be working on this like this voice speaking, public speaking course, which I think is going to be mind-blowing and amazing for so many people. But talk a little bit about your space and your area that you focus on.
Sure. Generally speaking, I would say 90% of the time, when an individual client comes to me and wants voice work, and they're not an actor or a singer, and that's why they're there. I'll put those people to the side for a second, because that is a different bag of tricks, can of worms, et cetera, metaphor day. Generally speaking, there is a real specific reason that somebody wants to come and work. It can be that there is some sort of, quote, stage fright around a keynote that they have coming up. Often there is a specific project, though certainly not always. Very frequently, what happens when someone comes to work with me on their voice is there's this instrument that is called the VHI that is sometimes used in clinical voice work. It's the Voice Handicap Index. And there's a 40-question version and a 10-question version. And the 10-question version, those questions that come up on there are things like, are you often asked to repeat yourself? That's one of the questions, for example, on the VHI 10. Those questions that come up on there, I would say 80% of the folks who come to work with me who are executives or who are attorneys, people who are really looking to increase their vocal power or prowess in some way, generally answer pretty high on one or more of those questions. They don't even realize there's some questionnaire that exists out there, of course, but it goes to show how aligned that kind of thing can be. And so it's very occupation specific sometimes when it comes to the field in which an individual works, if they're there for that sort of work, which they tend to be when they come to work with me. And one of the things I think is so important, and this is just going to continue on the theme of all that we have discussed today. It really is.
Love a theme.
It really is that the best way to have an authentic voice is to be authentic in what you're talking about, authentic in your perspectives of what you're talking about. And I think very importantly, to be aware that there is not one authentic voice in you, or only one authentic voice in you, or only one authentic you. This is something that, my business partner and I, in another business that we have that does branding and marketing, we talk about this with every client that we work with, truly every client, that there is not a brass ring to be had that is one authentic you, or your one authentic voice, or your one authentic perspective. Because I think a lot of existential crises sort of exist when people are like, but I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm finding that one authentic, my voice. And I say, well, speak. Okay, well, that was your voice.
Congratulations.
Right? You just heard it.
Yeah.
Now speak again, code switch, and speak in a different circumstance. That's also your voice.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are afraid that, the research says that we code switch thousands of times a day.
Yeah.
So it is not that every time I code switch, I'm being inauthentic. It's something we do by reflex.
Yeah.
And that can be just as authentic. So part of what we do is we kind of go into a little bit of role play in different scenarios. Well, let's work on that keynote that you have coming up. But now let's work on something that maybe you are going to talk to your C-suite about next week in a meeting that's completely different. Okay, let's sort of just investigate and watch back and observe where the authenticities were in those moments and how that did or maybe didn't connect to your vocal delivery in the way that you would like. Let's talk about physicality and how that is connecting to or maybe betraying your vocal delivery. And it can even get into things as specific as where your mic placement is and what your eye contact is with a camera. During COVID, there were executives I worked with who were doing their keynotes on camera, of course. And a lot of what we would work with is, well, how close are you to the camera? Are you making eye contact directly with the camera, or are we talking to a different individual? Where is the mic place? All of these things can come into you feeling confident. Confidence begets confidence, and successful. And those are the kinds of things that I tend to work with, always putting the goals of the individual first. And if that individual happens to fall into the 10% of people who come to work with me who don't have a very specific reason or goal in mind, then we kind of explore a lot of different things about the voice. There's lots of fun that you can have with playing around with the voice, and it's in a space where you do not have to feel as though you are being judged. I guarantee I've heard every sound that can come out of the human larynx.
I love it.
And so there is no right or wrong. There is no judgment, and I am just so grateful to get to be able to do what I do in that way.
I was going to say, I think one of Adam's the space that he creates, again, a comfortable space that just feels like you can truly do your best work, and because it's just a nice judgment-free zone. But it is just a very comforting, and there are just the tips and the tricks and all of the whole bag of tricks this guy has.
Yeah, well, and Adam does a really good job of letting you feel comfortable with your voice.
Yes.
And allows you, he knows the voice in a technical space so well that it allows you to do what you do, and then he knows what we need to manipulate or move or, whatever based on how you sound. And there are a lot of people, speech coaches and voice coaches, that lean on a tactic or a way of doing things that they believe is the right way. Adam doesn't do that. He allows the human to be at the center of the work that he does. And I think that's just what makes him so special.
I appreciate that you say that, because oftentimes, especially in the singing world, someone will come to you and say, well, which of these methods do you teach?
Yeah.
And I always say I don't subscribe to one method. That's like saying, here's one closet of clothes or one section of the department store or whatever, and that's what you got to do.
The end.
If you're going to work with me.
The same thing doesn't work for everyone. Because
absolutely
and I mean,
does not.
in voice work too. And I mean, I think that you have to, again, meet people where they are. And if they come in with, huge aspirations, you have to know that it's a process.
Well, and you can tell when
yeah.
you're watching somebody do a keynote that they have been taught something that is not authentic
That
to
is not
themselves.
them.
And when they show up, when they're able to show up as themselves, even if it's a little rough around the edges or not textbook, the audience
much easier.
feels something.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes,
the whole
the
purpose,
connection.
Yes.
is for an audience member to connect with who that person is, one way or another. If you are reciting, doing something that's inauthentic, they're not going to connect. Yeah. And I think that's what
right.
one of the things that's so beautiful about Adam.
I would agree.
Well, thank you.
Oh my God, so many beautiful things about Adam. And I think
Truth.
Even in hearing you talk about this and also getting to work with you as a student and as a colleague, just what an expert you are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is deep and profound how much you know and how much, you got the experience, but you've also done so much learning yourself and understanding this. And I'm like, does anyone match you in your expertise? Because I don't actually know. And it's just
No.
the way you're able to approach it. And I flippin' love this, that there is a science behind it.
Yes.
And I think often, understandably, when people think about things like the arts or like singing or the voice, whatever it may be, that it can feel like something separate from science, but that it's like
It's either
no,
a
there's-
skill you have or you don't.
Yeah.
Very elusive.
Very
right?
elusive.
Yeah.
But I think, one, saying there's not just one way, that it's like, okay, I got to go find the right person for me, that it's like just your complete comprehension and also ability to teach and convey this is really so powerful. I'm like floored by you. I feel like every time we talk with just how much you know.
I have to say how much I appreciate that. And what I want to say in that is, yes, matched a billion times over by other people who do this in the world. But here's what I want to say about that, because I think that what's really special about the vocology community, the study of the voice, which includes people who are vocal coaches, physicians, nutritionists, personal trainers, physical therapists, all these people you would never necessarily think would come into play with the voice. What I think is so cool about that community is the desire to keep learning from each other and to create new things together with each other. That is the thing. I think that there's so much knowledge now that voice science research has been funded in a much better way over the past couple of decades. There's so much more knowledge happening, but virtually no one writes their own thing or does their own thing or researches their own thing, because everybody wants to learn and create with each other in this community. And I think that is so special, and that is how there's no such thing as unmatched, because it's kind of like you're matching each other in what you're creating. And that I am very, very grateful to be part of that community that then we can go out, hopefully, and in our individual disciplines can help people from our own specialty areas, but in such a holistic way. And that's what the hope is.
I feel like there's congruency in that. We're always wanting to learn from each other, learn from other people, learn from our clients, learn from the people that we've brought on as guests. It's something that I think we all value very much, and that if we want the most fulfilling life, like the learning from each other and learning how to be an expert in our craft is critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of learning from
I
others.
was going to say, speaking of
Fearless
learning. Oh my
Fearless
God. Learning from this lady.
We're ready.
I would have the same
Oh my
segue.
gosh.
We're going to hold hands.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, majority of the work that I do is working with leaders, aspiring leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs who are looking to have, a more fulfilled business. Either better balanced, or they need ROI to go up, or they need their teams to function more effectively, or they're a individual contributor that's saying, I want to take ownership in my world, whether that's working with another leader or if that's taking themselves to a new level inside of the organization. And similarly to a lot of the things that we talked about, so much of it is around the discovery of what does that mean? What does the future look like? What is the outcome that you're anticipating and why? What's driving that? What are the values that we're looking to get to? And then we look at the prescription of, okay, is this an activity-based thing? Because a lot of times it may just be, I have a plan, I can't stick with the plan. I'm distracted by all of these things that are coming in. And so then we just get really narrowly focused on what are the biggest levers that we can pull to get you to the outcome as quickly as possible. It could just be an activity-based coaching relationship. I have some clients, all we do every week is we're like, what are the numbers? And did we hit those numbers? And why didn't we hit those numbers? And what do we need to do differently? Very tactical.
Yeah.
And that works because there are just some clients who are very clear about all the other things, but they just get distracted and things pull their attention. Some of it may be skill-based. I don't know how to look at a P&L. I don't know how to structure a sales team. I don't know how to build a team around me that's going to be functioning at a really high level. So we get into strategy around what does that look like? What do you want it to look like? How much money are you willing to put into it? How do we measure the ROI on all of these things? So we get really tactical around some of those things. And then we get into the mindset work, which is, I am leading this team, but I'm insecure in X, Y, and Z. I want to make X number of dollars in this business, but I don't feel worthy of that. Nobody ever says I don't feel worthy of it, but they'll say I'm just struggling with being motivated by that thing. And so then we work on the mindset side of things. And the thing, and part of the reason why all of this started in the first place was I, again, went through a lot of self-discovery myself around how many ways I could have been more effective as a leader and more effective as a communicator and as a business partner to the people that I worked with. And I didn't have those tools. I didn't have those capabilities. I didn't have people who were working with me around how my mindset was an inhibition to being able to get the things that either I wanted or that I knew was right for the company or for the team. And knowing now what I know and being able to work with leaders to see how their own self can be a barrier to them getting the things that they want is a really, really powerful piece of awareness. And, I just think about if you are, if you're leading a team and you're not aware of the fact that your language might be offensive to somebody or hurt somebody's feelings or not be motivating, that is such a, it feels like such a small thing, but if you're leading a huge, massive team, your results can tell you how your energy is like a direct result of what those end results are. And so we spend a lot of time on unpackaging, like how are you showing up? How are you communicating? What are the things that are going to be the most effective? How do we find what the motivators are for the teams that we're leading? All of those things is kind of where I spend my focus and the things that I really feel passionate about. I feel like if we can make a dent in some of these areas, things could change massively for organizations.
I agree.
So now it's time to talk about how amazing Leslie is.
Yes, easy.
I'll go first. I think that one of the things that I have always thought was really incredible about watching you work and talking to you one-on-one is, I don't know, for me as someone who did not come from like a corporate environment, I think that it can be so easy to fall into the concept in your mind that HR is compliance and complaints and rules and regulations. And I know it is all of those things. I know that it is all those things.
I'm not there anymore. Yeah.
The worst HR.
But like as an HR executive at a huge company, I think it's what I think is so cool. A learning that I certainly take away from you, Leslie, is that even in a position where it's a lot of complaints and having to resolve conflict and having to ensure compliance, like a lot of things that sound negative and not very fun or positive, you still have always and always do keep like the light shown directly on the like North Star of possibility. Right? Like
So strength and a weakness.
She's like, no, we're gonna get there.
Yes.
Getting there.
Maybe with too many blinders on, but yes, yeah.
But there is always, and that's like a philosophy that you can feel, and in addition to a process that one can emulate. So I think that I've never been on a coaching with you, but I can only imagine that the sort of like aura of yes, even when you're day in and day out is these pedantic things that you really wish would just go away. It can still be better.
100%.
And this organization can still grow, and this organization can, if people want to agree to that, if people are going to make the sort of cultural social contract within that organization,
100%.
that we are going to do that. And if not, maybe it's time for a change.
Yep, absolutely.
On anybody's terms.
100%. My number one strength is futuristic. So it can be a challenge too. So yeah, I have to check myself on that. But thank you.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
I would say that you're amazing at again, I think we're all good at, but making people comfortable and making things feel accessible. I know that Leslie has coached me through many a conversation with when I was in a role that I was having problems with leadership, and she was helping me, kind of talk through some of that, and just it all just feels very tangible. I would say you have a great way of something that seemed really hard coming to you with the issue, saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. And you just broke it down to seem very tangible. And you're just real smart. Oh my God, you're real smart, but then she's gonna make bad jokes. So that's
I will make bad
you're
jokes.
gonna have to put up with.
I think to your point, this is something that I've learned in getting into coaching relationships, is that people tend to lean one way or another. Either they can see really, really big picture visions and have a really hard time on like, how do I turn that into a thing that I need to do today?
Yeah.
Or you see this big thing and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so freaking overwhelming. And that makes me want to throw up. But I can do the minutia today.
Yes.
And I don't know how we connect the minutia to here. And I don't know how to do the minutia to get to the vision that I'm so crystal clear on. And I think the thing that is that I try to do when I'm working with clients is really get an understanding of how do they think. Are they here in this like tactical area that we've got to get clear on where we're going so that the activities lead us to that bigger picture?
Yep.
Or are they a big visionary that is just struggling with what do I need to do today, this hour, in order to break down that bigger thing to where it's tactical? And I think that's been a huge learning for me around like working with just different kinds of executives that focus on different things.
I think you're great at it, though. I know that. My experience with you has always just been, just very approachable. Like it feels very easy, and sometimes I think the biggest skill is in the moment you're making big changes, but it doesn't feel like. Sometimes it just feels like a conversation, and then I walk away and I'm like, hey.
Yeah, there's a change
Wait a minute.
Yep. Go build a big program.
You coached me. But I think that there's something to be said for that, because it feels so natural, and you just have a wonderful way with people and again, meeting them where they are. that I think sometimes you don't even notice that you're being coached and that and what's happening and the change kind of in the moment, because it just feels really, really natural. And yeah.
Thanks, Libs. Thank you.
Would wholly agree with that. And I think this is, I haven't worked with Leslie for a decade plus, as some people have.
Oh.
But I do see the ways in which you are people driven, which to me is like such a great way to be, and seeing that that work you do with your clients, but then also working with you at Ensō, the way in which you're always people driven with all of us. And I think you have such a generous spirit and like that generosity across so many different facets, and that you really believe in what you're doing. And like, I mean, it's just incredible to see someone who has these like, I mean, and it probably says something about my values, that I'm like, these beautiful values that are so amazing. And I love the values. And how much like you believe in them and stick to them. And those two things can be really hard to bring together. Like you can believe in something, but whether or not you stick to it and do it is something else. And I think you've got this incredible skill to do that. And I know that's something that you practice at too. So it's not like you're like, oh, natural.
Yeah.
I mean, some of that does feel really natural, but that it's something that like you are conscious about it and you put in the thought and work to make sure that's what you're doing.
Thank you.
And again, coming back to like how much people are part of that. And like, I have met so many people who know Leslie, and like everyone is such a big fan. And I mean, that's probably true to anyone,
sweet.
but it's true. And like to Libby's point, I think when people talk about you and spending time with you, there's this like, I felt really heard, and I felt like there was something in me that was unlocked. And that's just like such a beautiful strength.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I think that's true about all of us, which is probably why we are all working together.
We found each other.
It's true.
Yeah, it's really
It's
true.
true.
It's very important. It's very important.
This is gonna sound cheesy, but it's okay. I do think that we are held by this common belief that people should come as they are. I really do. I think that is a commonly held thread among all four of us.
100%.
Come as you are.
Yep.
Because who else are you going to come as?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And why
Yeah.
would you
Exactly.
want to?
Yeah. Well, this was a fun season 1, you guys.
It was.
And more to come. We're doing another season. We're doing a second season. We're
Absolutely.
really excited about it. We'll do more of these types of interviews. There will be some highlights on some of these programs that are being created. Libby's got one coming out soon
I do.
too.
I have a program.
And
Yes!
I know these things are, and again, going back to being people-centric, which is what we all are, is, we want to make some of the things that we're doing more accessible to more people. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to be fun. And I mean, keep coming as you are, right?
Yeah.
On 3, 1, 2, 3. Come as you are.
And subscribe to the podcast on all streaming
Also, the podcast
platforms.
name is
Thank
As You Are.
It's As You Are, but come as you are.
Come as you are.
Or you could be as you are.
Or be as you are.
Whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we are. But
We love you guys.
As you are.
Thank you.
yes.